Hello, everybody. This is Inside Geocaching HQ. It is our podcast where we talk about things happening at HQ and the people who work here. I am Chris Ronan. My geocaching username is RockChalk, and I am your host for the podcast. Welcome. Today, I bring you a conversation with Delanie from HQ's marketing team. Her username is OnCloudDivine, and I was today years old when I learned the background of that username. More on that in a few minutes. Delanie has been HQ's content strategist, and before that, she served in multiple other roles as a lackey. Delanie is soon departing HQ, and so I was thrilled to have this opportunity to chat with her about the many hats that she has worn during her time as a lackey. And so here is me and Delanie talking about geocaching and languages and the importance of words and lots of other stuff. Here we go. I've never seen either me or the person across from me not have notes with them for we're either talking about a project or we want to remember if we're just doing something about what the person does. We don't want to forget anything. And you and I just came in here completely unprepared.
Or the most prepared.
Or the most prepared, yeah. This could end up being, I don't know, we've covered a lot. Just, we were talking before I started recording again. We recorded for like 5 minutes of just, gosh, what all did we, well, we were talking about a book.
Yeah.
You were talking about a book that you really like.
Yeah. And it, like...
You can say the name.
It's The Phantom Toll Booth by Norton Juster. It's a children's book. And it is really like what has made me who I am today and like the things that I brought with me to my job at HQ. And I didn't think I even needed to prepare today, which is so atypical for me.
I was going to say, you're usually extremely prepared.
I didn't bring anything with me because I was just like, this is...
It's like senior year. You're just... Yeah. It's like the last week of school, and you're, we know how that feeling is, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say like I'm checked out, but I would say that I'm just like finding my stride of like this, of having been here for the last 6 years and spending my time here and getting to know everyone. I feel so much more comfortable than I think I even was in like my own skin last year or the year before. When I started as content strategist 3 years ago, and joined the marketing team, I felt so much like I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was doing. The job was new. The role was new. And so I was paving my own way in the company and in my own life. It was very much like parallel to what I was going through, like outside of HQ. So to like have come this far to not have my notebook with me today is actually like, I feel like it's saying a lot.
So you mentioned content strategist. That's your current title. Let's go back to where you started at HQ. I can't believe it's been 6 years. And partly I can't believe it because, of course, the pandemic was part of that, which threw everything off in terms of our time as a construct now. We're getting back into something else we talked about before we started recording. We really should have been recording that stuff. People missed a lot of good stuff. We had some profound things to say.
I know, that will never be able to be repeated.
Gone.
It's gone forever.
It's gone. Okay, so you came here around 6 years ago, and that was to do what? What was your first thing?
So I started in 2018 on the community engagement team as basically the person who answers emails whenever anyone writes in to contact@geocaching.com, and then also on our social media. So getting to create Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook posts, content, reels, and getting to use the puns that I love to use all the time.
Gosh, we should have a whole episode about puns.
Oh, that'd be great.
You and Nikki.
Yes. Emma, too.
Have like Emma. You should have like a
Yes.
pun off. Oh. Is that a...
That would be...
Just making sure that's not a bad word. That's not a bad word. Pun off?
No,
I can say pun off.
I think so. As content strategist? Sure.
Yeah, you guys are all great at that stuff. So so you got to use all that stuff.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about. See, that's the thing, the time thing. I knew about your time on the CVS team, which I guess we can move to that next. But there was a whole chapter before that.
There was a whole chapter, and it almost feels like it was like a completely different job almost. It feels like it feels like I might as well have been at a different company because it just feels like so long ago that I can't believe it's all part of the same story. But yeah, so I got to spend a year and a half on CE and really engaging with the community and learning about the game so much more than I ever did. I started caching in 2013, but it didn't mean what it meant once I started at HQ. I realized like the nuances and how different areas play the game, different regions play the game. So it gave me a really good diving board to jump over to CVS, Community Volunteer Support Team. And on that team, I helped assist and facilitate Mega and Giga event hosts to host their events worldwide. Unfortunately, I joined at the end of 2019, which was a precursor to the panini of the pandemic of 2020 and beyond. And so what I was learning in my role of helping Mega and Giga events happen turned into, instead of them hosting events, it was helping them reschedule their events and postpone their events and figure out what all of this meant, because at the beginning of it, we had no idea how long it was going to last. And I remember talking with Cindy, Frau Potter, and Brian in trying to just figure out how to handle this unknown circumstance that we found ourselves in. We wanted to be really supportive of the hosts and everything that they had put into their events and their planning, but it was really scary for us to think that geocaching might bring harm to people gathering for what was meant to be a really fun thing.
With events especially, these events that typically bring hundreds or thousands of people together, you definitely were there for something that we hope we never go through again. But
yeah, I'm not going to knock wood, but yeah.
And certainly in the grand scheme of bummers of that year, it was low on the list of bummers, right? There's a lot worse bummers, but still a pretty big bummer that you didn't get to actually do what you like to do, which is to facilitate people having those events. And now we've got all this excitement about next year and the block parties.
Exactly, yeah.
There's so many big things happen, and it's a bummer that you didn't get to
I know, and I'm such a positive person, like more often than not. So to be the bearer of bad news in so many instances of telling people like, no, you can't do this, or it was not. It was definitely an area of growth for me, of kind of being what I felt to be, the bad person and saying, nope, sorry, can't happen. So I didn't, it was hard for me to not get those opportunities to like help facilitate that joyful, like happy opportunity. But I'm glad though that we're on the other side of that. And Emily's doing a great job at facilitating mega events now.
Very much so. And then eventually you moved on to the marketing team.
Yeah.
And that is where you currently reside.
Yeah.
And your title is content strategist. So what does a content strategist, what do you do here?
Yeah.
Delanie, that's what I'm getting at. What do you do here?
You're not the only one with that question.
What is your job here? No. What is a for somebody that doesn't know what a content strategist does? What is in that realm?
Well, I like to say like this is what a content strategist does at HQ. I can't say that I speak for all content strategists everywhere, but here's what I
You know where the door is, Delanie. I want to hear what
we'll get someone else in here for you to get that burning question answered.
So for now, just what does the one at HQ do?
Yeah, the one at HQ, which is me, is so I help basically our product and our marketing teams to curate and curate's so uppity. Sorry, curate's way too uppity. Okay.
I'm leaving that in, by the way.
Great, love it. So
people do use the word curate way too often, by the way. It's like I went to a restaurant recently, and
their menu was curated.
Yeah, it was like curated by such and such. And then I saw an event. It was like a festival or something, and they said it was something about the finest curated foods and beverages. I'm like, curate? You mean you picked them?
Yes.
Is that what you mean?
Yes. Exactly.
Please just say you picked them.
Exactly.
Right,
I know. See, but that's why I'm an editor. I edit in real time, and the first draft is never great. And sometimes I have to go back and I have to be like, nope, that's really not good. So that's
We
why
really need a content strategist here for this podcast is what we need.
No, you really don't. You really don't. Yeah, so basically I try to help all of our teams at HQ with any copy, any words that the community sees. I help pick what those words are, basically, the very nuts and bolts of it. In the larger scheme of things, I also help with branding decisions and how we explain the game of geocaching officially and how we manage what our company, it's called a company voice, and our tone is when we talk about anything that we talk about in the public sphere.
And let's talk about why that kind of stuff's important, because starting with, you said, helping to decide what words are used. And I think I would even put myself in this category a long time ago. I might have heard that and said, come on, what's the big deal? You need a person to do that? I mean, that seems like something anybody could do. It's totally not, and it especially is totally not with a game like geocaching that is so international. When you have a word, there are some words that just don't, like when you start with English, there are some English words that do not translate well.
Yeah.
And there are some words that even somebody who thinks they know English pretty well, it doesn't mean the same thing to one person as other people. So that's just one example of many of ways that your role and what you do has been so important, because I know personally I've written blogs, I've written such and such, and you might make a comment on it to say, have you thought, maybe think about this word a little bit, because I could see where this might trip some people up if they read it. Could you think about using, and then you might give a suggestion about another word. And that's just one example.
Yeah, localization is a huge piece of it because we are a global game.
Right.
I only write the English version, and I'm so grateful to our geocaching community, volunteer translators, who get our app and our website localized, appropriately. And so you're totally right in that it is a big deal to pick what words go into that first English translation. And I think that what I have discovered is that so much of our game can be potentially geared towards experienced players, where the way that we have our acronyms, our DNFs, our TFTCs, all of those, our TOTTSs, or TOTTs, it can be exclusionary for new players that are coming in who aren't part of the community yet, but who are really desperately trying to become part of the community. Even talking about something like posted coordinates, a lot of people in the listening will have no problem understanding what that means in the scheme of, looking at a cache page. But I think that the importance is that of having someone to call that out, that, hey, we might want to think about all of the audience that we might not be able to reach if we talk in a very specific, for engaged audiences. An experienced player reads a blog post very differently than a new player.
Yeah, and that's something that I have appreciated a lot about you over time is you're not heavy-handed about it. It's not like you'll
appreciate that. You could say anything.
I've never seen you say, like, Chris, what you wrote here is just ridiculous, and you need to do. But it's more starting a conversation usually and saying, have you thought about this? And usually I haven't. Usually I've just written it, and then I'm like, oh wow, that's totally something that I should have thought more about or put more thought into. And like, for instance, like thinking about our help center, the geocaching help center, that's filled with so much great information. But you've gone through over time, and I spent a lot of time auditing various articles, and can this be cut down in some way? Can I think you and I both share desire to don't use 10 words if 5 words
absolutely
will do.
Brevity.
Yeah, and just making it easier to read. And I mean, I don't know, we could sit here and talk forever and about other reasons why content strategy is so important, but again, sometimes I think somebody might see a title and they don't know what it means, and they
Yeah.
just think, oh, well, what does that have to do with
Exactly.
geocaching? But
Yeah.
it totally does.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's
so
one of those jobs where it's like it's like when you don't notice me, I'm doing my job well. But as soon as you notice me in that, like something goes out and like the app and it's really confusing, or like user feedback comes in that it's, really, it's really not clear. Like that's when I'm like, oh, okay, well that was my bad. That was on me.
And so your role touches a number of different departments around the company, right? Because
Yes.
it's like you're on the marketing team, but you can talk about what different teams you work with.
Yeah,
and
I work really closely with our product and design team, basically like helping to, anytime there's a new feature released in the app, especially like our premium member experimental features have been a really fun project for me to work on. Working with Nicole on the mobile team to basically figure out how to present and market these new features to our premium members. And that's been a really fun way to experiment. It's funny. It's an experimental feature for more reasons than one, because we're experimenting with them too. And so I've really enjoyed working with our product and design teams on basically any new feature release that goes out. Anytime we touch the website and make changes, new player dashboard, I was involved in that project and like resorting that, the list on the, like that has been released, right? Resorting the list on the dashboard so that it hopefully makes more sense. All of those things were things that I really enjoyed working on and got the opportunity to hopefully improve.
And you very briefly mentioned you started caching in 2013. I always like to ask the folks who are in your chair right now about your favorite, what do you like about geocaching? And you own some geocaches, which I've always enjoyed finding. You always put a lot of thought into. If you go out and find one of Delanie's caches, you're not going to find a 2-sentence description, or there's going to be a theme. It's going to be well thought out and all of that stuff. But
I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. Yeah, please go find my caches, anyone who's in the area.
We didn't say your username yet.
No. So my username is OnCloudDivine. And that is, honestly, that might need to be spelled out because so many of like the European players spell it Devine.
Oh, yeah.
So should we record an intro at the end?
No, we can. Okay. Well, and I'll put it in on the page.
Okay.
But
okay.
On Cloud.
Yes.
Divine. D-I. Divine.
Divine.
I know,
right?
I'm contributing to the problem by saying divine. It's divine.
Right.
OnCloudDivine.
Right. Yeah. So my username is OnCloudDivine. I don't know, whatever.
Where did that? I've never asked you where your username.
Yeah, I would say. So I'm on the OCD spectrum. As a person, I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and so when I was thinking of like picking a name that
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so the initials for my
the initials
for my username are OCD.
Wow.
And
6 years, and I'm just. Isn't that wild?
I know. We hardly
6 years.
We really didn't get to talk on like. I feel like
it's mostly work stuff.
I know. So
it's terrible, isn't it?
I know. I feel bad about that now, but I'm glad we're talking now.
And recording it, which is what I like to do with all of my personal conversations. Is record them, and that way I don't forget anything. So anyway, I'm sorry. I totally totally messed up your train of thought by having this moment where I just
totally
kind of...
good. So I appreciate the call out for my caches. I have always enjoyed. So like, I started caching basically like kind of when I moved to Seattle from not too far out of town, but a little bit more out of town. I was not the, vivacious and outgoing extrovert that you see in front of you today. I'm saying that sarcastically because I'm the most introverted person, both now and always. And so I really needed a way to explore Seattle and explore the city and get to know it. But I felt like there wasn't a good way for me to do that because I didn't have, like, other than biking, which was a great way to see the city. But I felt like I didn't have intention when I went out to bike. It was just like biking to bike. And so a friend specifically made a recommendation for me to check out geocaching because they knew that I liked puzzles. They knew I liked figuring things out. They knew that I don't just like the sense of adventure, and especially themes, which themes are what I carried into my own caches. So you could, like, that right there is basically what I enjoy in a cache, anything that's themed and anything that's a larger container as a generalization. But it basically, like, helped me explore the city. And I know this is really cliche, but it, like, brought me to places that I wouldn't have found otherwise. And it's just, yeah, that's why I love it. And that's why I, like, will continue to geocache after I leave here, because it is truly what helps me feel connected wherever I travel.
Do you still have that cache that has the really nice view of Lake Union and, like, the University of Washington?
Yeah, the Streisguth Gardens.
No, it was a multi.
Yes,
I think.
Streisguth Gardens.
Is that what it is? Okay,
yeah.
It's been a while since I found it, so I wasn't sure of that.
Definitely.
Well, if
yeah.
how many caches do you own now?
Oh my gosh! So I
Is it quite a few still?
I own 2 multis and a bonus cache for an adventure.
Okay, so we'll go find any of them, but that I still remember that view, and it kind of again goes to what you just said, being able to find something in an area that you didn't know about. I remember getting to the final of that multi and being like, oh my gosh.
Oh, it might be Daisies is the friendliest flower.
Yes, that's what
Daisies
it is.
are the friendliest flower. Okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. That's the one.
That's the one.
And yeah, I got to the final. I was like, oh my gosh, this is, and I think I was by myself that time. And then another time we were in the area, I told my wife, we need to go find the final of this multi. I hope it's still active. And it was. And
awesome. Good.
So yeah. But it also had a theme to it, and you just think things out. And
I honestly, I won't publish a cache if it doesn't take me less than 3 months to plan it out, because that's truly, I will hand wring anything to death, including my caches.
Yeah. Well, for the better of the community though, which is really great. And I'm sure over time you've been able to attend various events and megas and things like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's been the best part. I feel like the best part of my time here has been actually getting to meet the community, and especially with my role and how localization plays such a big part into the words that I write, getting to meet members of the community in their region and understanding how, like, projects that I've worked on have impacted them and been received it's been really valuable for me. So I've been able to experience 2 megas in France and 1 mega in Belgium, and then obviously some more like local events as well. But the communities have just been, they made me so proud to be a lackey when I got to be there and got to hear from so many community members on what geocaching meant for them. And I felt it's still a moment that I'll carry with me forever, to feel that I was a part of something so positive.
And we got all this way, and you mentioned France. We hadn't even mentioned that you speak French.
Oui, je parle un petit peu de français.
We could have done the whole podcast with you speaking French and me speaking English. I wasn't going to say me speaking French. No, I'm doing Duolingo Spanish.
Oh, that's awesome.
But, well, it's...
Yeah, Duolingo can only take you so far.
It can.
Yeah.
I need to be immersed at some point.
Yeah. What's your goal with that?
Just it makes my brain think differently, and
I
think it's good for your brain.
You ran out of caches, so you had to.
Ran out of cash. No, there's a lot of lackeys doing it, and but otherwise, it's not like I went into a restaurant recently that was Spanish speaking, and just for a minute I thought I kind of want to order.
Yes.
But I just knew it would. If I was them, I would have been really annoyed at me for trying to butcher the language as I'm trying to order some food, and they
Was
just
it
want to do their
local?
job.
Right, true.
We don't need to help this guy with his prove that his Duolingo is working.
There's a time and a place, absolutely. When the first French mega that I went to, a geocacher was very kind to take me to a couple other countries at the end of that. My traveling. So we went to Monaco. This was all to, this was really to experience the geocaches in that area, and it may have been to get more countries for my statistics. It's who can say. So we went through Monaco, and then we ended up in like the very far like northern part of Italy, and it was near the end of the day. So we're like, okay, like let's get some pasta in Italy, like while in Italy, right? And so we ended up at the restaurant, and the waitress, so the geocacher that I was with spoke French primarily, and then a little bit of English. And so I was speaking with him mostly in French, but the waitress could only speak Italian and English. So it was like the translation faux pas of me going to the waitress in English and then talking to the geocacher in French and trying to like keep my lines straight of who I needed to talk to in which language. And that was still my favorite part of the trip, was that he tried to speak in French and she was like, "You're in Italy, buddy." And so English ended up being the way to go.
I could keep going like this for a long time, and I'm kind of like, oh my God, we've been talking for a long time. This is amazing. This is great with no notes. I'm not going to let anybody bring notes into the podcast anymore.
I honestly didn't even know that would happen. Like that could happen, that someone would come in with notes, because it never even crossed my mind. I was just like, this is just an organic conversation.
Yeah, it's been great, though. Well,
thanks so much for your time and hosting these. Really appreciate it.
Well, you were saying something before. You said if nobody notices you, you're doing your job well. And I was thinking to myself, anytime a lackey departs, it's always sad, especially somebody who's been here as long as you have. But I was thinking this morning, I was like, we work together on projects occasionally, but the rest of the time, it's just nice knowing Delanie's doing what she does somewhere, because it does so much for the community and so much for HQ. So thank you for everything that you do.
I really appreciate that.
And people will hopefully see you out caching still.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't stop me.
That was Delanie Willows, a longtime lackey who has been a member of our community volunteer support team, our community engagement team, and the marketing team. She is awesome. Go and find her caches if you find yourself around Seattle. If you've got an idea for our podcast, as always, you can send us an email to podcast@geocaching.com. That is podcast@geocaching.com. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, for me and Delanie and all of our fellow lackeys here at Geocaching HQ, happy caching.